So what all did he kill? Anything? Okay. All right. So, all right, guys. So glad y'all are here this evening. We have Lisa from Yogi Hollow Farm. I've been really excited about this. I reached out to her several months back and wanted to get her on here. And here she is. We got her on. So she does really cool stuff out there on her homestead. I've seen her with her coonies and Norman, right? Ain't that what his name is? Norman?
Yeah.
And you got to love Norman. That is the coolest little pig. Well, he's not little. He's a good sized pig, but we love watching him and all your content. So glad to have you on this evening. Kind of just want to start, what got you into homesteading? What was the draw for you?
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it very much. So,
Absolutely.
So what was the draw? It was the age-old thing. We had just moved here in 2020. Hey, Gwen. Moved here in 2020. The world changed. I'll leave it at that.
Right.
And I got scared. And we had some buildings on the property that would accommodate a plan. My husband, he was raised in rural Connecticut, worked on a sheep farm after school. So he had all the, the background to stuff like that. He hunts, he fishes, all that. So yeah, basically, that's it in a nutshell. We got scared and decided that we needed to take some control back for ourselves. And then I will admit, as the years have gone by, it's kind of like, what was wrong with us? We didn't do this sooner.
Right.
And I think there was a big shift in priorities as you live this lifestyle.
Absolutely. So can you tell people where y'all guys are located at? Because some of them I know is not going to know anything about you guys, but where are y'all located at?
We are located in the southern Black Hills of South Dakota. So we are on the western side of the street. That's my New York City coming out. The western side of the state. We are closer to Nebraska, and it's really great because we are at a really high elevation, which creates some challenges for us. Climate wise, we're in like a microclimate, but we absolutely love the scenery. It's absolutely stunning out here.
I've seen South Dakota in pictures and stuff, and I've always wanted to go. And my fascination with Deadwood really wants me to, get out there because I want to see, what I would have loved to have lived back in that time. That would have been my kind of place, right?
Yep.
So I can only imagine what living out there for you guys is like. And the challenges, though, that you mentioned, I don't know that I would want to deal with y'all's wintertime challenges because it gets really harsh there, correct?
Yes, it does. So we both, I grew up in New York City. Ryan grew up in rural Connecticut, Northwest Connecticut. And, then we were all living in Connecticut. We moved to North Carolina, Western North Carolina, and then we moved out here. So the difference between Connecticut and South Dakota is we have a lot lower humidity. And so that funny saying but it's a dry cold. Right. Is definitely what it is out here. It doesn't chill you to the bone, but it's cold.
Right.
So it creates a lot of challenges for us. So we are about 5,318 feet.
Okay.
That's
and double my elevation.
Yeah. And so, but if you go out 20 minutes in all directions of us, the elevation's lower. It's prairie. It's not mountainous like we are. We have primarily ponderosa pine trees with some aspen, whereas, that creates issues. And so it's so funny how there's more and more greenhouses here, so to speak, than there are actual gardens. And I go back to this one post on Facebook in a Black Hills gardening group, and it was so funny. Someone said, hey, I'm moving into, such and such a town. And, what's the gardening like there? And I laughed reading the comments because the one person said, well, get ready because it's nothing but a bunch of microclimates.
That's funny. That is funny.
Yeah.
So, we got Hematite Homestead on here. He raises cooney pigs in Virginia. What are the challenges that you face with your coonies at that elevation? Because they're not from America, right? They're from a warm place, I would say they probably like your springtimes there, right? And probably your summers, but I don't think they like my winters. I know they probably don't like your winter time. But what do you face there? Like, what are the challenges you face raising coonies in that environment?
Oof. Summertime is typical of everyone else. When we have a hot day, they all have pools and wallers. A lot of them prefer pools, which is fine because I've got those turtle pools, those sandboxes, and they
Right.
work out well. And for us, because of the dry climate, that really helps to keep the waller wet, right? Because technically, I mean, we have to water and water and water a waller, and it just keeps drying up.
Right.
So pools really work well for us. The pine trees do give them shade in their pastures. They have their bedding and all that. Other than that, summertime is not too bad. Like this summer was a cooler season, not too bad. And the other thing in summer is, especially when I've got some pregnant mamas getting ready to go, they're pretty big and uncomfortable. But even the boys, they get hosed down. I'm home, so I hose them down a few times a day, and they like that. I think that the wintertime is what really creates the issue. And so for us in winter, it's very expensive from a bedding standpoint. We use tons and tons of pine shavings. We're thinking of switching the straw this year. However, I feel the straw breaks down quicker.
Okay.
Even though it has more benefits because it's hollow and it insulates
The air,
and so
right.
on.
Right.
Right. So the other challenges we have in winter, aside from bedding, is keeping it dry. And that is because in the winter, I have pigs that go to the bathroom in their house because they don't want to go outside.
Oh, wow.
So,
Oop, hang on a minute.
Yep.
Oh, daggone you. Why did you do this?
It was your video, I think.
Yeah.
I think we lost him. He'll be back. I'll keep going, though, while we're waiting, if that's all right.
Yeah, you keep going.
Okay. So, keeping the bedding warm and dry. My two boars that we used to have, we have one boar now, they would go to the bathroom in their building. And so one of the challenges is when it's really cold, it's freezing. The bedding is freezing and I can't get it up off the barn. So always checking the barns to make sure they're dry. The females also do it. The difference is the females, the sows, are going in the corner of the building, whereas my boars were going wherever they were laying. So that's a challenge. The other part is when we get really, really cold, and I'll wait for Ryan when he comes back and we'll talk about that. But
go ahead, keep on going.
Okay.
It won't let me connect my face back my video back for some reason.
Weird.
Yeah, it is very weird. But keep on going.
One of the things I was waiting for you to come back about is one of the things is when we have these really brutally cold winters, like last year we had minus 47 wind chill or whatever. So we're feeding four times a day. We usually feed twice a day, and then we are really adding more feedings. And why do we do that? They lose weight in the colder weather. They need to generate that internal heat. And so we have to do stuff to keep them warm. So what's really cold for us is, like I said, last year we had minus 47 degrees with a wind chill. I can't remember what the temp was. I think it was like minus 25.
Oh, wow.
We don't usually get that all the time. In fact, a lot of the old timers here were saying that was really cold. About an hour north or hour and a half to 2 hours north of us, they had minus 60 degree wind chill. It was brutal. So last year was the first year we had frostbite with our pigs. We had Sherman lost his tail, and Fiona lost part of the tip of her ear. So even when you're doing everything you can do for them, otherwise they do really well. I have to say they've handled minus 30, no problem. It was because we had those really, really cold spots that screwed everything up.
Right.
Hey, Barb. Hey, everybody.
That is we had 2 or 3 days here where it was pretty cold. We had like a minus 30 wind chill, right? I used straw last year I just piled it up in huge piles. They just boy, I can't talk tonight. They buried themselves up in it really well, and they did pretty good. I mean, really can't complain for. I mean, all you would see was a big pile of hay or straw, and
Yeah.
you'd be like, "Well, where are they at?" And then you'd holler for them, you hear, and it's like, okay, they're in there, just. But it was so funny how they all just, all together pile up in there, and they really are like a little family. They keep each other warm and stuff. So it's kind of cute to watch them. But I couldn't imagine those types of conditions where you're getting frostbite. You know what I mean? And you're doing the best you can to prevent that, yet you're still getting it. So that would be and then having to up the feed too, because I mean we up the feed here, but we're not having to up it a lot, compared to summertime. But I would say you're probably having to up it significantly up there, right?
Yeah, we absolutely are. We feed them their normal ration, which is, normally twice a day. But then we switch to 3 times and then 4 times. Now, if it's a normal winter day and it's, above zero,
right,
we're not feeding them 4 times a day. We're not, because they do well. They've got warm, dry bedding. They have houses. We've put carpets, old carpets to the doorways because they have to have access as pigs.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize that. You have to give them access to their water and going outside. And the reason why is because they'll just dump those water buckets everywhere.
Yep.
So one of the things that we do is we have the water usually close to them and they do their thing. But, like you said, in the spring, they are up and about going, oh, thank goodness it's nice out again. And then when it gets cool again in the fall, like today was a cool day, they were like, this is nice.
Right. Yeah. Just all laid out there like, oh, it feels great.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had, the boys, Norman and Grant, have been laying out in the field sleeping at night.
Yeah, little do they know that it's getting ready to come. Bad times are coming, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because Grant and Norman are now down in our back pasture, which is more like a summer pasture. And it's funny because the building that is down there, they've gotten in the habit of Grant has knocking all the bedding out. So I stopped putting bedding down there. I'm like, if you're going to keep knocking it out,
right,
we're not going to give it to you. And I think that's why Norman's sleeping outside. He's used to that bougie bedding, so he's like, I'm going to lay on the hay.
Yeah, there you go. See, he's smart. He's a smart pig. But how much room are you giving them for space?
I'm bad at measurements.
Not just a rough estimate.
Ryan, how big are the pastures that we have? And that's my Ryan.
Yeah, I got.
I don't know if you can hear me.
That's okay.
We have 2 acres.
Okay.
And if you visualize, we have 3 pastures, and they're on the back acre.
Okay.
So I don't know measurements. I'm so bad at it.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
And then what we do in the summertime is we have electric net fencing that we rotate them in.
Okay.
So they have access. What happens is they get locked in their pasture and their housing at night. Then I open it in the morning and let them out. And the only reason I do that is because if electric net fencing fails, I don't want them roaming at night.
Right.
So that's something that we've done. And that's worked really well for us. So that's why Grant and Norman are in the back now. They have electric net fencing. And, at this point in time, all they're doing is rooting anyway.
Right.
And then same thing with the girls. They get moved around to different locations because of farrowing and so on.
Right. I just was trying to get for anybody that might not know or follow you, I was just trying to get them to understand, like, because I knew you wasn't on a big place.
Right.
People have this misconception that you have to have this large swath of land in order to homestead. And that's simply not true. And, and so I think you're a very good example of, taking 2 acres and turning it into a successful homestead, so
right.
That's why I was mentioning it.
Well, actually, can I add to that? Because
go ahead.
One of the things is you have to keep in mind, and I think of this all the time. People hear that we feed hay all year round.
Right.
And this year was a very good year because we always had pasture.
Right.
And that's not typical for us. And everybody's always like, why are you feeding hay year round? Because they're pasture pigs and we
Right.
don't have grass in a drought.
Yep.
So the first several years, that's what we did. But at the same time, I think the other thing is to balance the responsibility of the animal. And so, for example, we're not going to have a cow.
Right.
Because we don't have the room.
Right. Exactly.
There's no way.
Right. And, and I get asked that too, whenever people see me feeding hay to mine, they're like, what are you doing feeding hay to a pig? It's like, they're pasture pigs. This is what they eat. I got to feed them that, and, hay here for us is horrible. Most people only got one cutting this year. They did not get a second cutting.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a short of hay here. So I'm trying to secure hay now for the entire winter, up until that first cutting. So it's that's been a struggle too, to find it.
Yeah, absolutely. I found it at a feed store. And one of the things is that like they were having trouble with their equipment, and because they're waiting for a part to come in,
right,
and to get a repair done, they can't load it.
Oh,
and
wow.
I said to them, I said, hey, look, I need that. It's like a 1,000 pound rectangular bale.
Right.
And I said, look, I need it. And they're like, well, we have 63 bales. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I need a bale of alfalfa because somebody's going to come in and buy 40 of them.
Right. Exactly.
We've got a bigger ranch than we do.
And it happens every year. They don't understand that. I don't know that they don't understand it, or they just don't seem to think about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because things are they are, like I got a buddy that I help, bale hay, and, so many people say, I want X amount of hay, and they might get that same amount of hay for several years. And then all of a sudden, well, I don't need that much anymore, and I think either they rely so much on their old customers that they just have this, this preconceived idea that, it's already gone, or it's already sold, or whatever. Right. And so they're not really thinking, in terms of the littler people like us who, well, we need a bale or two or three to last us X, Y, and Z, so it is kind of a struggle to get them to understand that sometimes. But, what else do you raise out there on your homestead?
Well, we have had pheasants. We raised ringneck pheasants last year for meat. And we also, that's my bulldog, #dad bulldog. My husband's trying to keep him under control, but he's needy, the bulldog thing. So we have, obviously we have a flock of laying chickens. We had Cornish cross meat chickens, and we also have bourbon red turkeys. Since then, they've left the farm because we've decided we don't eat enough turkey to sustain them all year. So we want to look at more sustainable meat chickens. Right. And so I don't know, we've got about 40 laying hens. We used to have the 3 turkeys. We have 2 sows, Kuni sows. We used to have 2 boars in Norman. Now Sherman had left, so we have 2 sows, a boar, and a barrow and a boarling that are being raised for meat. And the boarling will be raised because he has a scrotal hernia.
Okay.
So he will not be castrated, and he will be raised to be a suckling roaster pig.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever watched, but Hematite Homestead has got some videos on that particular subject, the the herniated pigs, and then using them for roaster pigs. So if you ever get to check that out, if you haven't, you can watch that.
I actually took a course through the AKKPS registry.
Right.
With, I think it was Zion's Creek Farm or Zion's Gate. I always get them confused. There's 2 that are similar, but they did, they have a YouTube channel, but they also did a educational seminar.
Oh, that's cool.
On raising pigs that had the scrotal hernias, and talking about when the taint starts and when you can avoid it and so on. So, that's why one of ours will be a roaster pig, and then the other one is already a barrow. We've castrated him when he was a couple of weeks old, or quicker, I should say. And then he'll grow out to full grown.
Awesome. Let's see. Jason
But thank
said,
you.
"Y'all know you're welcome." Jason said, "Check Joe Souden's place. He uses pigs to help compost, puts in hay and wood chips where the cows have been." And Joe Souden is a very, very smart man. He's another very, very good one to. Oh, hey, look! Guess what?
Yeah, that was awesome. That was last year.
Yeah.
In fact, we signed up for the one with is it pork rind? And then he canceled it, and I was so bummed because it was going to talk about sustainable pork production.
Right. And it is it's not, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's not as hard as what some people would think it is to be a sustainable farmer on a small scale. I mean, would you agree to that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we raised 2 Mangalitsa Duroc and Berkshire crosses in 2021. We got them as feeder pigs. We raised them. We got them the last day in January. We brought them to the butcher end of August, same year.
Right.
They were the most delicious pork I've ever had in my life. And we were thrilled to have them.
Right.
And so, however, they tended to take after the commercial breeds in their mix. And they definitely did a lot more damage to the land. Some good, some bad.
Right.
They undermined fences and stuff like that. So having the Kuni pigs for me, when they get loose, I call them by name and they come for the most part. Fiona is not one who does that. Excuse me. But that's the thing I like about them is they're manageable. Whereas if I think my meat pigs got out, unfortunately, it would have ended much differently.
Right.
They would than me walking them back in.
Right.
Most of the pigs are bucket trained, except when Norman decides not to be. And so absolutely. The other thing is, yes, we do feed corn during the winter, but we do not feed that as their primary diet. They get corn when we are very cold.
Right.
Otherwise, they get a full, I shouldn't say that because we've switched feeds. That was my old thinking. We have since switched feeds and we go to a local mill now because we are having trouble getting pig feed.
Right.
But we feed a full nutrition, corn and soy based feed that has minerals in it that they need. And then we do add additional corn if it is very, very cold.
Right. And for those who don't know, tell them why you put extra corn in it when it's cold.
The corn is to help them generate internal heat, but just keep in mind, if you're not feeding full nutrition, it's just like giving a candy bar to someone who's anemic.
Right.
I'm sorry. I meant to say anorexic. They're not going to get the nutrition. They need nutrition, but then the corn is something that helps. It's like giving your layers in your flock, giving them a sound, full nutrition diet, but then also giving them scratch.
Right. Exactly. That's a very good way to put it. This thing here is aggravating me where I can't see my face.
I know.
Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave the studio. It should not end it. I don't believe it'll end it. Okay.
If you don't end it, it won't.
Right. So I'm going to leave it and I'm going to try to come back in. Why don't we talk about your next favorite animal while I'm doing that on the homestead?
My next favorite animal. There's one.
One.
Pigs.
Come on. You don't like your chickens?
They're fun. They're tons of fun, but I have to tell you, go ahead and take care of your stuff.
Okay.
So for me, there is nothing like a piglet. There is absolutely nothing like a piglet. They come out, they're beautiful little miracles. I know some people feel that way about goats, and goat kids are adorable. Yes, I love Lucy. I do love Lucy. She's totally spoiled. But my favorite is the piglets. They come out and they're born and they're little scrawny things and they're tiny. They look so fragile. Then within a few weeks, they grow into these chunky monkey, little cute things with personality, and they're playing. Um, and I've really enjoyed the pigs. Really, really enjoyed the pigs. They've just been a lot of fun. So I would think the other thing is bulldogs, although Diesel is testing that recently. But I do love Old English bulldogs. Diesel is our second one. And that's why he's barking in the background. Bulldogs have a thing where they bark for attention. And even though you ignore them, they keep doing it and they don't stop. So, yeah, agreed, Jason. Agreed. But I do have Lucy. Who is a Lavender Orpington chicken and follows me around like a dog. If she is way the other side of the property and I call her, she comes running over. She hears my voice. She comes running over. She's just like having a dog in a chicken body. So it's pretty funny the way she does everything. What's your favorite animal, you guys? Let me know. I'm going to go back up. Hey, Mountain Grandma. I'm sorry for the dog. Pig's the only farm animal with a shovel on its face, and they love digging. Yes, they do. And their snouts are incredibly strong. Incredibly strong. Let's see here. Ryan had to restart his laptop. He'll be back momentarily. Sounds good, Jaden's mama. Thank you so much. Jason loves goats. We know Gwen at Bro Cowgirl loves goats. It all adds up. Bulldogs are awesome. Yeah. I think he's coming back. It restarted.
We got it. Yay.
Yay. We were just having a conversation about what their favorite animals are. And I think so we got goats and all that. And then the other thing was Barb's Country Homestead boxers. Yeah, Ryan will agree with you on that. He loves boxers too. And then Hematite said pigs for us. And yes, piglets are always fun.
Piglets are a blast. They're fun to watch. I like watching them. And hopefully we'll have some soon. I found what I think is going to be the way that we're going to have to go. I'm going to have to get an AI. And I found well, I didn't find. Stephen helped me find it at Hematite Homestead. A thing for Kuni AI. So I'm going, the next time they go into heat, well, it won't be the next time. It'll be probably February. End of January, beginning of February, I'll try to artificially inseminate them that way with that. So I think that's going to be the way that I'll go. And then we're probably going to eat the other two, but because they're just not working out. But, you know, piglets are a blast to watch. And, you know, I can foresee me having piglets here and it being a problem, getting rid of them or eating them. Right. Yeah. So your thumbnail is perfect for this, right? You got the little piglet, you're holding it. There was a lady at the store the other day. She looked dead at me. She seen us. We had all this food piled up. She was like, "How long does that last?" I said, "A month." She was like, you know, and she was like, "What do you got?" And I told her. She was like, "How much do the pigs eat?" And I was like, "A lot." You know, and she was like, "Well, we're getting 2 pigs in the spring, and we're going to raise them up to be butchered. And I don't know if I can do it or not." I was like, "Oh, you can do it." You know, "Oh, I just want to love them." You know, this. I said, "Love them till you eat them, and then love to eat them."
Yep.
You know? I mean, that's literally, you know, but people don't understand that concept. They're okay with going to the store, buying stuff that is bad for it. Like they literally put stuff in there that's bad for us, right? And even, I don't care how you can buy the all natural, whatever you want. Guaranteed, if you were to run a test on there, you would find something in there that's bad for us, right? So what is your recommendation, your dare I say theology on how you come to terms with having piglets? They're all cute, they're funny, whatever, and you love them, but raising them up and then eating them. How do you go through that process to where somebody could watch this video and say, "Okay, I get that."
Yeah.
Right.
So Norman has been a good joke, right?
Right.
Because he was under 50 pounds. He was at risk of hypothermia. We had planned on having more than just Norman so they could huddle together. We ended up with just Norman.
Right.
Don't let it fool you, because if I had to, I'd eat Norman.
Right.
I'm just being real.
Right. Absolutely.
I have the luxury of having him as a pet and having that choice.
Right.
But if I needed to, I would eat Norman. And one day I may.
Right.
He's a barrow, all that. But he ended up having such a personality on him that I decided I wanted a pet. And my husband said, let's go for it. So the other thing is, like somebody said, Jason said, don't name them. I name them.
Yep.
And I'll tell you why. I name them for me. Not everybody can do that. I get it. I name them out of respect for what they're going to give us.
Right.
I feel that they deserve a life. I feel that they deserve to be treated like any other animal. Our meat pigs were Maggie and Winston, and I'm forever grateful of them for their sacrifice and service. I don't name my Cornish cross, if you're thinking that, because there's 50 of them. I can't do that.
Right.
Heck, my chickens don't all have names because I couldn't tell them all apart, but when it comes to the bigger animals, I do name them.
Right.
Sometimes the Cornish cross, I'll call them the chicken nuggies, and I'll talk to them and they respond to that name. But I think it's important to name them because they need to know that they are loved and they know that they are taken care of, and they need to live a really good life, in my opinion, for me.
Absolutely.
However, when Maggie and Winston came to the farm, I knew that they were going.
Yep.
So for me, it's a partition in my head about being able to say, okay, they're leaving.
Right.
Recently we had our boar leave, and I think the hardest part for me was that he was my first Cooney pig. I remember the day that I brought him home, I felt like a kid at Christmas. I bonded with him. I cried for months after finding out someone bought him. Right. And he was just going to another farm.
Right.
But he will always be my baby. But I also put on the table, let's butcher him.
Right.
So he stays at home. And the reality of, for the same reasons you and I were talking about with taint versus not and castrating at a late age and all that, we ended up not. So we let him live somewhere else.
Right.
So I think for me, the biggest thing is knowing that they're leaving for meat is very helpful because I'm able to keep an emotional distance from them. And as adorable as Norman is, he's looking pretty good.
Right. Right. It's like, but
yeah.
People would look at us and say, oh my God, these people are so cruel. How could they do that? But I really would like to, them to think about this. Come to our places, watch our videos, look how our animals are raised, look how they're loved and tended to and cared for. The whole family loves them, and we try to enrich their lives as much as they enrich our lives. Right. And then go to some pig farm. And look at how they're raised in mass production. Nobody loves them. Nobody cares about them. Somebody might go through and dump feed and water to them, and that's it. And they're in these little old tiny boxes that they can barely move around in, right? They're in mud up to their bellies, whatever. And, they think that, that us, by, eating them after we've loved on them, would be just a horrible thing, which one lived the worst life, right? The one that was raised there, the one that we raised, and you're right that having that separation of, okay, this is my food, or one day it could be my food, like Norman, right? I've said all along, I jumped out of the truck last year and picked up this little fawn that was, on the side of the road, just been born in a ditch. Mommy was hit and killed, jumped out, grabbed her, still soaking wet. And we have loved on that deer for a year now, right? She goes out in the woods, comes back every day. She lives with the other deer, but she comes back and she's bringing more with her now. So I don't know that's a good thing or not, but but if it came down, now, as bad as I don't want to, if it came down to it, would I eat her? No doubt about it. No doubt about it. You know, I would get her too and put her on the table, but I don't have to, right? And so there's those times when you don't have to, and that's great. And then there are all those times when it's a necessity. My freezer's running low, and we got to, right? And we make those decisions as we come to them. But as far as the rest of them go, they're here for a purpose, and they're either going to serve that purpose for breeding and making more so that we can eat, or they're going to be ate themselves, like we were talking about before the show. Wilbur is not doing his job as a boar. He is not breeding, and well, we need pig, and I'm tired of buying pig from the store, and so they should have done bred. So we're going to try our best to castrate him or have the vet come castrate him, and then wait a couple months and turn him into some delicious food for the table. But as much as I like Wilbur, as much as he's my favorite pig outside of Violet. Violet, I love Violet, but Wilbur's the one that always comes to me. I holler
that
for
was
Wilbur.
Sherman.
Right, exactly. He just walks over, and comes to me, and it's just like, oh, okay, you're this is my buddy. He always is looking for food. He's the first one to see me and start squealing, wanting something, but he's not doing his job, and I have to make that conscious decision to do the right thing, right? I mean, and the right thing is to call him, right, and to eat him. I mean, that's the right choice. And
well, when you have a small homestead, things have to have a purpose,
right?
And so that is something my husband has really pushed into my head. And obviously, I've gone a little astray with the Norman thing, but he's indulging me, right? And it's nice because Norman has turned out to be he's a barrow, so he's a great companion pig to my boar now that Sherman's gone.
Right.
So even though it sounded funny in the beginning, it's serving a great purpose.
Absolutely.
Because we try to double them up in wintertime. So we've got the 2 piglets together, the 2 sows, and now we've got Norman and Grant. Grant went in with Sherman when he was a piglet, and I remember Grant getting tossed across the pasture like you wouldn't believe. Seriously, I would freak out. He would lift him up and flip him over. And yet Norman, it's so funny. He's a lot bigger, and I've got him in with Grant, and Grant is just the sweetest guy because Grant never slept outside of the house until now because he wants to protect Norman. He's always in front of him. And so it's awesome. Like, to me, that worked out good because wintertime, they need a buddy, they need a companion, and he does pay for his keep and cuteness, right? Yep. He's adorable. I mean, I could call that pig, he comes running over. Gwen knows that one time I went to get him. He wouldn't go down where I needed him, but, I mean, that's the thing. You have to decide what works for you. And so that landscape is always changing.
Right.
It
is. And as you get bigger, there are ways that you can be a little bit more lenient with what you do, right? Like if you ended up getting bigger, right? Which I wanted to talk about. But like us, if we were a bigger homestead where we could afford to have a little bit more space, I'd let Wilbur stay. I would let him stay. He would be a pet. Yep. I mean, without question, without a problem. Would have no reason. I mean, I can let him out and he will play with the kids.
Yeah.
I really can't do that with the other 2. They get a little too rough, pushing around on him and stuff. Wilbur will just stand there, whatever, and he'll let him pet him. It's not a big deal. So, I mean, I would let him stay if we had a bigger area. Hint, hint, if you want to keep him, right, in there, right to the wife.
Yeah.
But, there's just no way right now that we could with only an acre, right, and him not producing. So, there, like you said, there's times when we can, and there's times when we just say, okay, yeah, but we can't.
One of the things my husband says is, we're not a sanctuary.
Yeah.
And it's true,
it is true.
And he even says, like, if we had 10 acres, we would have kept Sherman.
Right.
But we don't have that luxury. So that means somebody has to go.
Yep.
And that's just the reality, right? Because we're raising our own meat. We're not raising or not creating a sanctuary for animals to live for the rest of their lives. Now, that doesn't mean when I say that, because people get mad, but that doesn't mean that I don't care for them. And anyone who saw that video of me talking about Sherman, it took me a long time to make because I couldn't keep it together.
Right.
That's how much I missed him. And I still do.
You're still missing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, that's completely understandable, because once you get a bond and a relationship with an animal, it is very, very hard to give them away or sell them or eat them. You know what I mean? You know, it's really, you know, I think if people understood how hard it was on us to do those things, they probably wouldn't judge us like they do. Right. If they could literally see how devastated we are internally. Right. That, you know, because nobody wants to do that. You know, even like with chicks, you know, I don't know if you hatch your own chicks, you'll know there is a survivability rate. Right. And you can hatch 50 of them out and, you know, 20 die. Right. Or they just don't have this will to live for some reason, you know, and it's usually for several weeks that it's like that. You know, they can have a healthy chick and it just starts going down. Well, it's became my job around here to take those and put them out of their misery.
Right.
I don't want to do that.
No one does.
Yeah. But you got to do it, right? Because what are you going to do? Let them sit there and suffer? No.
Well, that's one thing my husband has always said to me, is that it's never easy. And the reason why it's never easy is because if it was easy, there's something wrong with us.
Right. Yep. There is something.
And so you have to deal with an animal that is suffering humanely, and you need to put them out of their misery. And that's the reality. Just like you have to, if I don't butcher a chicken or dispatch a chicken, someone else is going to.
Yep.
Because I'm kidding myself that the ones at the store went in a less painful way.
Right.
It's the reality.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't think, you know, there's been several videos that I've seen, be it that they're real or maybe they're, you know, just satire, but I've seen several of them where people was like, you know, getting asked these questions. Well, you know, where do you think your meat comes from? And there has been some very absurd questions, and it's like, there's no way that they're serious about what these answers are, right? And then he was like, well, what if I told you a farmer had to raise that and then butcher it?
No different than we do.
Yeah, right. Oh, I would never eat it again. Right.
Whatever.
And then, you know, it's like, whatever, you know, you know good and well you would. Where do you think it came from all this time you've been eating chicken nuggets or whatever you've been filling your belly full with, right? So you're right. You know, we're kidding ourselves if we think that somebody's not going to have to do it for us to eat. And I think that's probably the big push that you see now for everybody to go, you know, and if you eat this way, I'm not bashing you. That's completely fine. But, you know, I think that's the reason why we see such a big push for vegan, you know, and just strictly vegetarian, is because people have this love for creation without fully understanding it, why creation's there. You know what I mean?
Well, everything in creation is ruined and killed and sprayed.
Right.
When you're trying to raise up vegetables.
Billions. Right. And, you know, here's the thing. If we all raised what we were going to eat, like we are supposed to, like we were intended to do, right? We wouldn't have to worry about where our food comes from. We wouldn't have to worry about what it's pumped full of or sprayed with or any of that stuff. We would know that we're getting good nutritionally dense food that's not got any antibiotics in it, you know, steroids, weird pesticides sprayed on it, and all this other nonsense. And that's why, you know, it's important for us as homesteaders to try to show, you know, be it Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, to show what we do and how we do it to attract more people to it. Because the more of us that are growing, you know, I've heard Monica and Eric say this a lot on Bland's Promised Land Ranch. You know, the more of us that are growing, well, you may be good at something that I'm not, and I'm good at something that you're not, and we can trade. So we all don't have to grow and do the same thing, just as long as we're growing and doing something that we can trade for, right?
Right.
And that's a beautiful way to put it, because that's how the old timers done it. They did what they were good at, and they bartered and traded for the rest.
And I think the other thing is taking responsibility.
Yep.
The other thing is understand why we have GMO crops, understand why chickens are being sprayed with that stuff. Whether you agree with it or not,
Right.
it's because the demand is there. We demanded it.
Yep.
By buying it from the store.
Absolutely.
So now you have this movement, if you will, of people who are raising their own meat, raising their own food, growing it any way they can. And I'm definitely a proponent of it. But here's the thing, when you do that, we're starting to make a very small difference, but we're making a difference, right? Because the demand is reducing. Absolutely. But you have to understand the people who are still stuck in that demand of going to the store is why we have bioengineered food. You can't have the population of the United States of America keep growing, and not be able to meet the demand of feeding.
Right. Absolutely.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I mean, it is. And, you know, if like you said, if everybody though did their part, I mean, you think about this. Back my great grandmother, you know, back when she was a kid, it was nothing for them to have, you know, 12, 13 children, right? And they all helped raise the farm. Right. They all ate and they all helped raise it. You know, I mean, even my grandpa, which I'm working on a video with him and my grandmother, talking about how they lived, you know, in the 40s, you know, how they were raised. It's very moving because you get to see what it was like, and you kind of understand that we've kind of been tricked into believing that this is the only way, you know, where if I was willing to carve out, you know, I understand people got to work, right? People got to go to work and do 40 hours, sometimes more. Understand that. But if you was willing to raise your own chickens for eggs, that's that much less production that has to be produced, right?
Right.
If you're willing to grow your own garden in the summer and can it, that's that much less that has to be put on the shelves, right? Every little bit that we do is that much less that we have to worry about. And if we would help reduce that need, that does, you know, whatever, right? Because I think a lot of it, if you look at America, we're very wasteful people, very wasteful. So if we got down to the nuts and bolts of how much we really would eat, there would be no need for all this because it's usually waste anyhow.
Yep.
So if we got down to the nuts and bolts of it and said, okay, well, this is how much we need to eat. This is how much we need. This is how much I can put on the table myself as a family. This is how much I need from big ag. You know what I mean? If we did it like that, there would be no need for GMOs or any of these sprays or any of this stuff. They would be able to handle the populace based upon us doing our part. But nobody wants to do their part.
And the other thing is too, if you think about the farmers that are out there now, right? And farming is such a struggle, right? Because there's a lot of things out of their control, and we don't need to get into that whole conversation. But whether it's weather, whether it's drought, whether it's rain, all the things that we know and all the other stuff that I'm not even getting into, they need GMO because they need to be able to have success so they don't feed their families.
That's true. That's very
true.
And
so here's the thing. So here's a good example. So, well, not a good example, but you know, I kept Norman. There blew our pork plan out of the water, right? We had over 400 pounds of pork.
Right.
We've been through it. We got a little bit of bacon left, but that's it.
Right.
I went local. We went local to a local ranch that raises hogs. I've heard amazing things about them. I've talked to her on Instagram. And we went up to the processor today to get it all set. And so we have pork in our freezer, right? Because it's the next best thing. I can't raise a cow,
right?
But we buy beef from a local rancher.
Yep.
And so we're still supporting the farmer,
right?
But we're not supporting the commercial stuff,
the big ag, right? And that's what we should do.
Right. And it's like, because we couldn't raise it, because those two little coony piglets that we have are going to take a while to grow out.
Right.
Because that's what we've chosen. But but now at least we have meat in the freezer for our family.
Right. And that's the other component to this is, like you said, going local. You see, if we're not going to the Walmart or wherever, and I'm not bashing people for this. I'm not bashing you if you're doing this. I don't think I'm bashing, but if you spent the money that you spent at Walmart, now, and I want people to really think about this. Walmart, my buddy worked at Walmart for 25 years. Walmart is set up to draw you in to buy stuff you don't need.
Right.
It's specifically set up to give you subliminal messages to go somewhere else in the store when you don't even need that thing, right?
Right.
You go in to buy a thing of hamburger that's, produced by Big Ag that you could have got locally, right, for maybe a little bit more, but it would have been better for you and better for that farmer, okay? But now you've went in there for a thing of hamburger and you came out with $200 spent.
Right.
Why because you went in there for hamburger, but all these little messages on the way to the hamburger told you to get X, Y, and Z on your way out, right? And so you think that you're saving money going to Walmart to buy the hamburger for $5.99, when if you would have went to the farmer and bought the hamburger for $7.99, you would have never spent the other, $190 that you spent at Walmart.
Yeah, and that's the conversation I have a lot, and I talk about on my lives, is that, we want to support local, right? We do. And I think there's several layers of local, right? So we've got farmers that we support. We try to do all that and all that stuff. Then there's the issue of, in our case, we're in a tourist town. So when I buy a half gallon, a half and a half here, it's $10.
Oh, wow.
If I drive an hour one way and I go to Walmart, it's, I think, is it $4.99, Ryan? I think it's like $4.99. So it's half price.
Right.
We dread going to Walmart, and it's nothing that Walmart does. It's just we dread it because we don't want to go there. We don't want to take the ride. We want to stay local. But at the same time, right, I've got all this a locally owned grocery chain store, and I can't afford to shop there. The same thing that I would buy at Walmart, sadly,
right,
that is, say $200 at Walmart would cost me upwards of $500, $600 in my town. And I hate that because I want to give local.
Right. Well,
it's crazy.
That's a great example, and because there's a couple questions I want to get, or a couple of things that was said in here I want to get to in a second. But that's a good example because, I've got a really nice local hardware store. They carry everything you could ever want, but they charge you double, sometimes triple what you can get it for online or at Lowe's. And it's like, so I asked him, I said, because it was when I put my well in out here, I could get the pump for $130 or $140 for the pump, right? And I went down there and I said, I want to buy a pump. How much is your pump? Deep well pump? I was like, yeah. He's like $300 and some dollars. And I was like, what? And I was like, I can get the pump on Amazon for $130 or $140. And he was like, well, can it do this? Can it do that? And I flipped the phone around and showed him, and he was like, oh, it's the same exact one. Yeah. And you start asking them, and, a lot of times some of them will be greedy. They'll say, well, we're the only place in town. Nobody wants to spend the gas to go, so they can kind of gouge it, right? Right. But then there are those who are like these guys down here who get charged X amount more because they don't buy in bulk.
Right.
Walmart, not Kmart, but Walmart, Lowe's, all these places buy in bulk so they can get a better discount on the items. They might buy 50 of them, right? And 50 isn't enough for them to give them a discount, so they have to charge them more. And in order for them to say, okay, well, justify them being in business, they have to charge us more as a consumer. Right. And that's kind of wrong, because if you're a big company selling big things, you can give somebody like Walmart a discount because they bought in bulk, 100 or 200, whatever they're buying, right? You would think for the little guy, you'd be able to give him some savings as well, because you've made a lot of money off of Walmart and Lowe's and whatever. You would think that they would help him out. And then the really local store that was right here, literally right out here in front of the house, he had to close down because he was only doing $3,000 in business a month.
Jeez.
As you know, in a town that's maybe comprised of 1,000 people, if that, and he's doing $3,000 of business a month, and they completely cut him off. They would not give him any more merchandise to sell because it wasn't enough money for them. But Broke Cowgirl, she made a very good comment here, about blaming the school systems for getting rid of things in school, like teaching kids how to cook and stuff. Right? You need home economics and stuff like that. It's important for kids to know these things, right? And they yank them out. They yank shop class out, welding, and all these different voc schools out of there. And we push upon our children, oh, well, you're not going to be successful unless you go to school, right? Unless you go to college, there's no way you can make money and be successful. And that's just not the truth.
Right.
I was brought up in that era where all my aunts and uncles were, oh, you need to go to college. You need to go, this, and this. And it's like, nah, I don't want to do that. I hate school. And to this day, I've never used anything I learned in school except for, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and learning how to write. That's all I ever used. I mean, if you can use the rest of it, more power to you, but I don't need that, right? The reality is the majority of the population don't need it.
Right.
They need to know how to sustain themselves and to live a life that benefits not just their family, but the community. And we've took the community out of the equation when we took home economics and other things out, So
I mean, one of the things that my husband and I joke about all the time, I don't like to cook. I can't stand it. I'm exactly like my mom. I don't like to cook. I cook because I have to.
Right.
Here's the thing though. I'm out there harvesting everything yesterday, and Gwen knows this because I was talking to her, but I harvested everything yesterday and I do small batches of pickles and stuff like that. Why? Because I want the food.
Right.
I don't enjoy it.
Right.
I don't sit there and go, oh, this is so exciting. Let me cook this dinner. No, I don't.
No.
But my husband yesterday was like, wow, you're on fire, right? I was grating zucchini, putting it in the freezer. I was canning pickles. I was doing that stuff. The reality of it is I value the food on the shelf, or the food availability and the less waste, but I still can cook my own chickens. I know how to do it. I just don't have to enjoy it. I want to eat it though.
Right. Exactly. And that's another thing. A lot of people don't understand that. They're like, oh, I don't want to cook. Well, do you want to eat? You don't have to enjoy the cooking. Just so as long as you enjoy the eating part of it, you know what I mean? Like, and so, I mean, there's so many different things that people misconstrue about this life, they like to can. I can tell you right now, there is nothing my wife enjoys about canning. She does a phenomenal job of it, and she will wear herself out. But I can tell you right now, when I start bringing in trash bags, contractor bags full of tomatoes and peppers and corn, she looks at me with this face of, if looks could kill, you'd be dead right now. Stop bringing in all this stuff, Yeah. Or I have to hear, would you not plant so much next year? But at the end of the year, when we're breaking through the spring, getting, midsummer, and everything's gone, right? Then she's like, oh, did you plant extra of this? Did you plant extra of that? Yeah. Because we ate so much of it. Yep, I did. I planted extra of this and extra of that because everybody ate it and everybody loved it, and I knew we needed it. So so you're right. She don't enjoy it. I don't. I'll be honest with you. Everybody thinks I love gardening. I hate gardening.
Oh, I do too.
I mean, I hate it. I'm good.
I like harvesting.
Right, exactly. But gardening is hard. There's nothing fun about going out there planting seeds and growing it up and then picking the weeds and all. There's nothing fun about that. There's nothing fun about chasing the birds and everything else out of the garden to keep it from eating it. That's not fun. The fun is the harvest and watching it come from nothing to something. That's the enjoyable part of it. You know?
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I joked the other day on Instagram. I post a lot in my stories, and I planted King of the North peppers with my tomato seeds. Awesome. I planted them in February, in March, right? They're just starting to fruit now.
Oh no.
So I said, the peppers are coming in because they owe me.
Right.
Why?
Right.
Because I started them in March.
Right. Right.
They better fruit.
They better fruit. That's
so I got
right.
a ton of bell peppers over there. I've got some jalapenos over there. I got some, but not enough. But it's just like, you owe me. I spent several months. So it's like, that's the funny thing about gardening. You know, they talk about people in the South who have these longer seasons. I feel like I am sitting there eking out for months, right? From February until now, which is long for us.
Right.
Eking these seedlings, because seedlings get to a point where they need to be moved out.
Right.
Right. And I can't put them outside yet.
Right.
So I'm sitting there, you know, talking to them and singing whatever I got to do to keep them happy and put them out. And then we get a frost and they're all dead, right? Or something like that.
Yep.
For me, it's like gardening is painful.
Yep.
I did really well at it this year, but it's painful. I don't enjoy it. I don't want to do it, but I want to harvest.
Exactly.
And so even when my zucchini and yellow squash were not producing, and I read online and somebody told me something stupid that I bought apparently in my head. And then Gwen at Bro Cowgirl was like, no. This is what's wrong. And I added the calcium.
Yep.
Well, because of it, I got tiny little zucchini, but I got several pounds of it.
Right.
At one time because I corrected the issue because I could have weed whacked them all down.
Right.
I don't do that. Usually I wait till the frost kills my garden. This year was the first time I cut it because I knew nothing was going to happen in 2 days.
Right.
You know, but that's the thing. Like it doesn't matter if you enjoy it or not. It's what do you value? So here's the example I always use. If I valued eating healthy and losing weight, I would lose weight and I would eat healthy.
That's right.
But I value food, growing food. So I'm going to make my own food.
Right. Exactly.
I don't have to like it, but I'm going to make it because I want it.
Right. And that's an awesome way to look at it. You know, it's being truthful, very, very truthful. Right. Mm-hmm. So Hematite said, that's why they rearrange all the stores all the time so you don't get comfortable enough with laying out. That way you go straight to what you want and or what you need and leave. Yeah, right. So he's right. You know, they rearrange things all the time. So, you know, and God forbid you take the kids. And there's no need for Barbie dolls and Hot Wheels in the food. But some reason there's Hot Wheels and Barbie dolls in the food. And then, you know, you end up over or fishing stuff. Why is fishing stuff over in the food stuff? There's no need for that. But then you end up over there buying fishing tackle and stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But it's always something with the stores. They literally have a what I forget what Jason called it. It's a team at every store, and they give examples from corporate gives examples of how to set up stores, and the team has to come up with those examples and implement them in the stores. And so, and if something's going to be a new hot item or going to be coming out, they do all that stuff. I need to have him come on one day and talk about that because I think it would blow people's minds how much they do. You know, I didn't realize it till he told me about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yes, Barb, I do like the soap making.
Soap making, yeah. So, what about soap making? Because we're going to be trying to make some soap here, hopefully, this winter. My buck, he's out in the goat that we have. He's starting to get pretty billied, if you know what I mean. And he's not acting so nice. Right? I've never seen him do these things. But the other day, me and my wife, I told her, I said, you really need to start watching him. He's starting to get, a billy goat attitude. He's peeing all over himself and, acting kind of strange and making weird noises and chasing her around, because it's getting colder. And that's one of the things that signals him to go into the rut.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, he looks at us and his lips curl. His top lip completely curls up, touches his nose, and his bottom lip's hanging there like Bubba Gump, right? And he starts like this. And she's like, oh, my God, what is he doing? I said, he's being a billy goat. He's charged up, honey. But so hopefully we'll have some kids this winter so we can start, getting some milk off of them, make some soap. But you make soap out of lard?
No, I made it. I actually, well, I have lard now, but
Okay.
I picked up today. That has to be rendered, but I have made it out of coconut oil, and I made coconut oil, olive oil, and calendula
Okay.
soap, and then I made straight coconut oil soap. I try to keep it simple. Um, I like it more of the stuff that I have than rather having to buy stuff from countries that are outside of us.
Right.
And so that's one of the things I'm doing. So I will move into goat milk. I don't have goats, but I'm going to move into using the powdered goat milk.
Okay.
And the lard, because like I said today, when we picked up our half a hog, we were able to get all the lard as well.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yep.
So when you make it with the olive oil and stuff, what's that process look like?
Yeah, I do cold process. So you're heating up the coconut oil, in my case, to melt it. In some of the southern states, it's going to already be melted and you just have to heat it. Mine is completely solid. And so then you're going to put that, well, I put it in a crock pot and then add the olive oil to it, get it up to a certain temperature, and then you mix your lye with water, and then you will combine the two at a certain temperature, and then you bring it up to trace and put it in the molds.
Right. That's pretty cool. So, broke cowgirl said, no, that's not true at all. Vokay will earn more money than a college degree all day long. You don't have to pay for the rest of your life for the college loan. And that is very, very true. So any young people that might be watching, I'm not telling you to drop out of school or nothing, but you don't have to go any further past 12. So just keep that in mind. Let's see here. She said so true.
Yep.
Trying to make sure.
Yeah, I did answer that.
Yep. Let's see here. Big 30.
Yeah. Ryan cooks. My husband cooks really well.
I had to learn how to cook when I was a kid because Dad and Mom was always gone. Yeah. And so while they were gone, I got tired of coming home and there not being any. I mean, not there wasn't nothing there to eat. Just wasn't there nothing fixed, right? So
yeah.
I can remember pulling the cookbooks down that my dad had, and I'd start flipping through them, and I'd cook stuff with them. So it was fun. I learned how to cook. My wife. Yeah. I taught my wife how to cook.
Nice.
Yeah, because her mommy burns everything, and then whenever her daddy eats it, if it's cooked right and not burnt, he says, "What's wrong with it?" Yeah, so he done got used to the burnt stuff. But
wow.
But no, it's funny. It's funny. I got a good joke with them all the time about cooking. So so what's next for you on the homestead? What are you gonna? What are you guys' plans coming up in the next year?
Not quite sure. And I'll explain that. What we've been trying to do is move towards a model of bulking up in the warmer time and really reducing our footprint in the wintertime, because winter is just really challenging. After last winter, we really realized the footprint was really heavy. And so, I think not this past summer, but the last summer, we had over 80 animals here between pheasants, turkeys, chickens, piglets, you name it. And that's what we want to do. We want to move more towards only growing what absolutely works in our greenhouses, only raising exactly what we're going to eat that we love, not wasting our time on things that don't waste time, not sustaining turkeys all year long and then saying, oh, we butchered 5 last year, we still have 3 in the freezer.
Right.
And trying to be better at that. And I think we've done a really good job of that. And we've also reduced a lot of our food waste, because let's face it, there's always waste, right? But that's one thing that I've always been on, is reducing our food waste by eating all the leftovers, doing something with it. And yet at the same time, giving like, for example, the canning scraps, right? I'm sitting there and we peeled, I don't know, however many pounds of carrots that we bought from a bulk produce supply, and we canned them. And the pigs absolutely loved
The tops.
the carrot peels, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody loved them. And the other thing is, same thing with, what was it? The green bean ends when you snap them off.
Yep.
Everybody loved all that. So that kind of thing to me is just becoming more efficient. And just making sure we do that. The other thing is we're looking into, but it's not 100%, is we're looking into a more sustainable chicken breed for meat.
Right.
We've kind of looked at the Bressie. I'm still torn because the people raising the Bressie all can't really give me a clear answer.
Yeah,
because
I've
they
ran
haven't
into that.
Yeah, they haven't had them for supper yet, or I feel like they give an obligatory answer. I don't feel that I'm getting a straight. The other thing is Delawares. I've heard things about, but not as much.
I have Delaware.
Have you eaten them?
Yeah, they're good. I would
Are
I would recommend them. Now, so the American breast, or Bressie, Bresse, right?
Yeah.
That was a chicken that was brought from France, if I'm not mistaken. Dual purpose bird. You can eat it. It gets kind of big like a broiler, but it doesn't have all the issues a broiler has and stuff. So the people I've talked to about those chickens, it's kind of like what you said. You don't really get a straight answer with them. You can't get did you eat one? No, not yet. Well, how's their egg production? It's okay, whatever. Or all the multiple questions you ask them. How do they do in the cold? How do they do in the heat? And I think a lot of what I've been getting has been probably because they're in love with the breed a lot, and they're not really. I think there's a lot of hype with that breed, and I don't believe the hype. That's just me. I could be totally wrong, but I don't believe the hype. I've seen them on several other YouTubers' channels, and then just mysteriously they shift, right? Yep. And it's like, hang on a minute, you were raising these, and then it got quiet about them. What happened to them,
And they shift when somebody else
shifts.
Right. Because that's the thing. Like my husband loves the Cornish cross. I do too. I can't stand raising them. I'll be honest. They're gross.
Yep.
But they are the best tasting bird.
They are.
And the only thing that I don't like is mainly the fact that I ordered 50.
Right.
And I think we ended up butchering 37.
Right.
That's what I don't like.
Well, they don't live they're not a very durable bird. I like a bird that has dual purpose. Now is it okay to go out there and knock them in the head and eat them, or butcher a bunch of them? Yeah, that ain't bad. But we don't have a lot of freezer space, so we can't put a bunch of them in the freezer because we don't have that space. So I like it to where, we want chicken tonight, no problem. I'll go get a chicken and take care of it, or I do it the day before or whatever, right? And with the Delaware, you can do that. Now, we don't have a lot of them now, right?
Yeah.
We got a couple of them left. Hopefully, we got I think 2 hens left. We need to get a rooster and separate them and start hatching them out. So probably should start looking for that. It's a good durable bird. It lasts really well in the wintertime here. Summertime, it did well. It didn't lose weight in the winter. It didn't lose weight. It didn't act weird in the summer with the heat. It's a good sized bird. It does not eat a lot. It likes to forage, unlike the broilers that think that they have to eat only, meat bird pellets and whatever, and they can't forage out in the woods. They go out, they forage, they do well there. Really, you do not see them like the rest of the chickens. They have no desire to get out of where you put them. They stay right where they're at. I don't ever have to chase them back in. I've never had to chase them back in. They always stay where they're put. I love the Delaware.
How long does it take from chick to adult to be able to, and how big are they?
I would say probably, really, if I'm going to be honest, it's probably about 6 months, but I wasn't really paying attention. Okay. I got them for the sole purpose to breed them, only because it said that they were rare, right? And that's what it said. It said, oh, it was a rare bird. So I was like, oh, I want to breed those.
Yeah.
And so then after, I didn't know that they was a dual purpose bird, but I wasn't, at the time when I got them, I wasn't worried about any of that. I was just thinking, oh, it's a rare bird. I want to raise a rare bird.
Right.
And then it was upon raising them that I learned, all the dual purpose, and, they're really good and hardy birds and stuff. And then I was like, oh, okay. So now, and we ate a couple of them and they were good. And I would say they was probably, I didn't weigh them and I'm bad at guessing, but I would say they were at least 5.5, 6 pounds, somewhere around there.
Yeah, because that's fine. I mean, we had some 9 and 10 pound Cornish cross, and
right.
We don't need a 9 and 10 pound chicken.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, that again, it goes back to, wasting, right? Because you're not going to eat all that. So, I mean, they're a decent sized bird, and they probably could have been, if you would focused on only them, and you only had those birds or whatever, you could probably do, I would say, a lot better weight wise if you wanted to.
Right.
Egg production is good with them. They're very gentle. They listen well. I've not had any, issues with the Delaware or the Delawares at all.
Nice.
Outside of maybe wanting to nest in weird spots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, some chickens just don't want to go in the box. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Outside of that, I've not had any problem with them, and I like them a lot. My wife, she's pivoted though from eating birds, purpose birds to show birds. So
gotcha.
she's pivoted to all these Polish and showgirls and silkies and then all this other stuff. And I'm sitting there going, I don't know how this is going to pay off, but and then she starts showing me these prices and I'm like, yeah, go for it. If you can sell a chicken for that, go for it, honey. Yeah, I want to. Yeah, bring home the bacon. We'll buy the chicken from the guy down the road. You know what I mean?
No kidding. No kidding.
But yeah, I think they're a really good breed, and I don't really see many people talking about the Delawares much.
Yeah.
So
no, I haven't either. I think I saw Fit Farmer talking about them, and I didn't even watch in detail. It was just a post on Instagram. But that's the thing. We've raised Red Rangers. We've raised Royal Gray Broilers. Those are the only ones we did not care for. And then we've raised the Cornish Cross. And I do like the ones that forage more. They do tend to be less disgusting.
Right.
I mean, because let's face it, Cornish Cross, all they do is sit at the feeder the entire time. And it's just, And
you just watch.
They're delicious.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's no feathers half the time on any. And it's just like, I'm eating a naked chicken, But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you, Sandy, for that. That's that pumpkin has been a lot of fun. And I can't wait to watch him float that down the Delaware River. That's going to be fun. I got the NFL player Chris Long's going to float that big pumpkin down the Delaware River, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's see here, but I've never heard of that second one. What'd you go? The gray? What'd you say it was?
Royal Gray Broilers.
I've never heard of that.
I think they were from Hoover's, and we saw them in the store last spring and bought a bunch of them. And we thought, okay, we'll see how they go. They were broilers. They did have some flavor to them, but they were a little more dark meaty tasting, I guess is the right way to say it. A little chewy.
Yeah.
So not thrilled about it.
Yeah, the Delawares tasted really, really good. They were excellent. But of course,
good.
I mean, I don't know. I heard a lot of people say it's what you feed them and stuff or whatever. I mean, it very well could be, but a lot. I mean, I let them go over in the woods. We'll go out there and we'll feed them. We'll feed them scratch and crack corn and layer mash. But for the most part, I push them to the woods. Go over and forage. You know what I mean? I mean, there's plenty of stuff over there that's a whole lot healthier than what I'm going to sit here and feed you. So go over and eat, and reduce all the bugs that's in my garden.
Sure.
Right. So that's how I look at it. But so there's not going to be a lot of change between now and next year. Is that what you said, though?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just trying to pivot and reestablish what works well for us. And so one of the things like that I mean by that is, we may consider buying a couple lambs,
okay,
and raising them and butchering them. We
That'd
may
be great.
consider things like that because we're trying to diversify our protein, but at the same time, being able to raise it in the warmer months and not taking on the responsibility in the wintertime.
Right.
We'll still have our laying flock, we'll still have our pigs, but just trying to reduce some of that cost, associated with the bedding, associated with the extra feed, and also the time and the worry over wintertime.
So the lambs, how long does it take to raise those out? But I mean,
I don't know. That would be completely new to me. But it's not long.
Okay, cool.
It's not long.
We love lamb here.
Yeah,
we love it, but it's hard to find. I mean, it's not hard to find the lamb itself. You can find that. It's just hard to find somebody who has them around butchering size to buy and then take and get it butchered.
Yep.
And really the only place that I've ever found anything like that has been on private selection, at Kroger's or something like that, right?
Right.
And
right.
I'd much rather buy it around here. So that's going to be interesting to watch and see. I'd be very curious to see how you guys raise them and how they finish out and all that. That'd be quite the process.
Yeah, and I mean it's not a long process from what I understand. A few months maybe. I'm going to say because like I said, it would still be new to me.
Right.
But I do have a friend who does have sheep, raises sheep, and she goes through lambing season and all that. And so basically what you do is you buy the lamb per pound, and then you bring it home after it's weaned, and then you have them. One of the other things is we've tried to do, and chicken is like our main source that we eat a lot of, but the other thing that we've done is we're trying to rotate some things. So like with the pheasant, we raised a bunch last year. We're going to wait till next year to raise a bunch again. That way on small land, we're not having everybody here at once again. You know what I mean? That way we're able to have the different meat sources and we're able to go through it in a decent time.
Have you ever messed with quail?
No, I have not. I just don't know that. I don't know why, but quail and rabbit are two things that don't appeal to me. Isn't that terrible?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Quail for us is really, really cool. They can breed at 6 to 8 weeks old. Their eggs are better for you than chicken eggs. And you can butcher them at 6 to 8 weeks old, so I've been trying to tell everybody like, hey, if you want to get into some sustainability and you don't want to have to put out a lot of feed, you know what I mean? And you can have quite the numbers pretty quick, get quail, because quail, they're like rabbits. They explode. And I mean, we're having to eat them and sell them. Right. Cause I mean, they're just popping out. And we started out with 6 of them just a couple months ago. Right. Well, it was more than a couple months ago. I think back in April, I think is when we got them, but they're very, very crazy as far as how, and they taste really good. You ever ate dove?
Oh yeah. In fact, I just went to a cookout they were made dove.
So, I mean, it's comparable to that, right?
Comparable to dove.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we like it around here. So if for some reason you don't get the pheasants and you want to try some quail, I mean, I think you'd like it. But we got rabbits. I can't get nobody to eat the rabbits here. They all end up getting sold for pets. Nobody will eat them. So this is part of it. But I'm gonna finish going through all these, and then me and you, we can. I think we're pretty good. I think we went through everything that I wanted to ask you.
Well, thanks so much for having it.
It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I'd like to have you on again sometime.
Absolutely.
Maybe next year after you've went through your whole lamb raising and stuff. I'd kind of like to get you on here and we'll talk about that.
Yeah. If we go through it, absolutely.
Sandy says quails. Yes, they're They are really awesome. Yeah. So I always say at least try it once. So because they've been pretty good for us. So pickled quail eggs, we're going to try that out. Actually, we've been talking about that.
Oh, thanks, Sandy. Same, right back at you.
So been a lot of fun here. Let's see.
Absolutely. That's so wild.
I'll have to check out these 4-H and FFAs for the county auctions. Yep. You know what's bad though? We don't have any county auctions. We don't have county stuff around here.
Yeah,
it's bad. We have to go all the way to Virginia to get anything done.
Yeah.
Yes, Lisa is awesome. She is very awesome.
You're so sweet, Sandy. Thank you. Thanks, Mountain Grandma.
Yep. So guys, that's all I have for tonight. I really want to thank Lisa for coming on and having fun here. It's always good to get another homesteader on and somebody who raises coonies. I always like to hear about the coonies, and guys, and if you haven't checked out Hematite Homestead, highly recommend her channel, Lisa's channel, Yogi Hollow Farm, and Hematite Homestead. If you want to learn about coonies, how they're raising them and stuff. I am not an expert, but I tell you what, when I have questions about them, guess who I go to? I go to Stephen or I go to Lisa and ask them what is going on with the pigs.
Yeah,
because I'm just honest. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to pigs. So I ask the ones that do know, and that's what the community is all about, is being able to reach out to people who know what they're doing, right? And I really
learn somewhere.
Exactly. You got to learn somewhere, and I really think that between her and Stephen, they've lined me out several times on several issues. So I can't say thank you enough. But guys, it's been a good place, and we'll see you next week. I got to tell you who you're going to have on, don't I? I almost forgot.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It was a good conversation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for coming on. I was very excited about getting you to come on.
Likewise. Thank you.
I'm always excited when somebody says yes, but it's always better when it's somebody I've been talking to and I watch quite frequently and stuff. That way I can know better how to ask questions.
Absolutely.
Let me see here. Read off this, and I'll let you go. Let me see. Where did I put it? Live stream. There we go. All right. So next week, October 11th, I have Tony from Kettle Kitchen coming on. That's going to be on a Wednesday. Now, guys, you're going to have to work with me on this because I'm going to be out of town, not here. All right. I'm going to be floating a pumpkin down the Delaware River talking with Tony from Kettle Kitchen. Okay, guys?
That's awesome.
We're going to have to figure this one out, but we're going to figure it out one way or another. We will figure it out. We will have a live stream, but we're going to have a lot of fun. All right. But Tony's going to come. So it won't be on Tuesday. It'll be on Wednesday next week. That's the only difference. So next Wednesday on October 11th. And then following up the next Tuesday, October 17th, we have Acorn Creek Farmstead coming on. October 24th, we have Seven Ken Homestead coming on. And then October 31st, we have Hematite Homestead coming on. And so you guys get another Cooney guy or Cooney breeder, raiser, whatever you want to call him.
That's awesome.
So he'll be on the 31st. November 7th, 14th, 21st, 28th is open. So if any of you guys would like to come on the live stream, you're more than welcome to. You can email me at babydrill2119@yahoo.com. And I'd like to get November filled up as soon as possible. And then December 5th, we have Enoch Graham from the Urban Gardener. He's going to come back on with us. December 12th, 19th, and 26th is open. Again, if you want to come on those days, just message me at babydrill2119@yahoo.com. Put in the subject live stream so I know what it's about, and we'll get you on here. And I don't care if you got a big YouTube channel, little YouTube channel. It doesn't matter to me. If you got something that can contribute to the homesteading community, the gardening community, we want you to come on. We want you to talk about your experiences. So, guys, it's been a really fun place, and thank you again, Lisa, for coming on and spending the evening with us. And guys, we're going to get out of here. So we'll see you next time right here in the Hollers and Hills of West Virginia. See y'all.
Thank you.
Yep.